Well, welcome to our community. Susie Thomas with you this morning. Always a pleasure to welcome Andrew DeFreitas from the Alzheimer's Association. And it's got a much longer name than that. Tell me exactly your area of service.
Sure. Well, the Alzheimer's Association is a national organization. I work with the Greater East Ohio area chapter. So we cover 17 counties from kind of Medina to Warren down to Steubenville and Zanesville.
My goodness.
So that's a lot of caregivers that we are trying to reach and the general public through risk reduction. So thank you.
How do you do that? How do you reach and take care of 17 counties?
Well, it's a bit. We actually, by our estimates, there's about 60,000 people living with Alzheimer's disease in those 17 counties.
Really?
And about 250,000 caregivers.
Wow.
Now that's a huge number. So we know for a fact we're not reaching all of those with our staff of 14. So we try our best, especially through volunteer engagement, to raise awareness across all of those communities through events like the Walk to End Alzheimer's, which I know we'll discuss a bit.
Yeah.
And we benefit from our national partnership through paid advertising on like the presidential debates and otherwise. So that when you see those commercials, we don't necessarily have to purchase those at the local level, thank goodness.
That's
but
good.
It still connects people with our services.
And you get next to the high profile, you get those adjacencies that are near very high profile things. You know, a lot of people are going to see them.
Right.
Because a lot of people are touched by this in one way or the other, yes?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, like I said, there's a huge number of individuals living with the disease. But for every person with the disease, there's 2 to 3 individuals providing unpaid care, usually a close family member. But every instance is different. One of the services the Alzheimer's Association does is actually our side-by-side program where we interact with the family and kind of find that balance, find that care plan that works for them. You might be in a circumstance where your father has the disease, but all of his children live out of state, but there's like a niece or a nephew that's nearby. Everyone in that instance is going to have their own opinion on what care looks like and what their involvement is going to look like. So the association, we try to play that outside party and bring our knowledge of, this is what people go through and this is what the different stages look like. And we try to create that care plan for them.
What are the stages where it is still safe to have someone be at home and have relatives, family members caring for them? And what is the stage where you really need some pros stepping in?
Oh, that's really different with, and kind of a good example of Alzheimer's disease in general, Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. It's really different instance to instance. That's why we try to have a touch point with families. We don't want to just put out on billboards, this is the point where you have to do this. Because like I said, there might be a family where there's 10 children and 1 nephew. All the children live out of state, but that nephew acting as a caregiver, that person can keep that individual in their home the longest. And depending on the different stages of the disease and where they are in cognitive decline, they might be able to stay in their home for years and years and years after a diagnosis. Other individuals progress much more rapidly. And part of that stems from our understanding of the different types of dementia.
You're getting into my next question. What does Alzheimer's look like? Does Alzheimer's look differently from person to person?
Yeah,
the disease itself.
So stepping back one second, so dementia and Alzheimer's, we have often found that people use that interchangeably with senility.
Right.
Senility is not a word we want to use anymore in the 21st century.
We never say senile.
Right. We know now that significant memory loss is not a normal part of aging. There is a disease there at play.
That is great news for many people.
Yes.
That this isn't just something to expect.
Well, I
it's
think
an actual disease.
So many people, for so long, Alzheimer's disease was, this unspoken monster out there that, you got older and memory loss was just, Grandpa just had
part of what
loss.
happens.
Right. And we know now that, no, there is a cause. We don't know all the details of the cause.
Exactly,
but we're getting closer and closer.
Well, how close are we? Tell me some things that may be causes.
Sure. So amyloid plaques in the brain, that really centers around your different neurons. We just had our international research conference in Los Angeles, actually, and they have we brought together about 6,000 experts from across the world, and that is the go-to Alzheimer's and dementia research conference with about, I think, 3,400 presentations looking at everything from causes, the genetic components, the lifestyle components, the risk factors, to potential treatments, to potential lifestyle interventions around if you already have the disease, how can you make your life better?
Yes. Can it reverse at all with changes in lifestyle?
So I don't want to use the word reverse. What we have
Slow
found...
down?
So there's no method of preventing, treating, or curing Alzheimer's disease.
Got it.
But by understanding what type of dementia being that umbrella term, we might be able to solve certain things. If it's not Alzheimer's disease, for example. I remember the last time I spoke with you that caffeine withdrawal can be a cause of memory loss.
Right.
So an individual who's experiencing memory loss because of caffeine withdrawal can solve that, can reverse that.
Drink more coffee.
Yeah, drink more or less, depending on how you look at that.
Right, yeah.
I'm a drink more coffee is the solution to everything kind of person.
Yes.
But if it's truly Alzheimer's disease, that's going to be a different solution. If you have dementia brought on by maybe a major head trauma and it's not Alzheimer's disease as we know it, the solution there might be a little differently, and we can maybe solve some of that. But it's not the same as those amyloids and plaques that we believe cause Alzheimer's disease. And likewise, when it comes to risk reduction not perfectly equating to prevention, but we know that there are lifestyle factors that can be impacted to lower your risks significantly.
And these are what?
Well, I brought the 10 ways to love your brain, and
everyone should have this.
I will send it to you, and we can post it on Facebook and everywhere.
Perfect. Okay. All right. Tell me how to love my brain.
So the 10 ways to love your brain are we've found the research reported out at AAIC, the association's international research conference. These are factors that, if you can do 4 or more, there is a significant reduction in your risk of getting Alzheimer's disease.
This is great news.
Yes. So we can't say it's a method of prevention because you can do all 10 and still get Alzheimer's disease. But when we pair significantly impacting risk reduction with our other kind of public health engagement at the association locally in Northeast Ohio, we think we can start to change that trajectory of Alzheimer's disease.
So the common man's way of saying this would be, this is hedging our bets.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
So
tell us what to do.
And I'll prerequisite with if you're not able to listen to this start to finish, alz.org is our website.
Okay.
alz.org/10 ways, 10 ways, will take you to the 10 ways to love your brain. And we do say that it's never too late or too early to incorporate healthy
So no
habits.
one can yell at me saying I was late for work because I was stuck in my car because I had to hear the rest of that. I've had folks tell me that before.
I've had that experience. I want to listen to this through to the end.
Apologies for people who've gotten in trouble. But you can go to work. All you have to do is, once you're in work and you turn on that computer, go to alz.org/10 ways.
Right.
And there you go.
And some of those ways, including quitting smoking cessation. One of the research studies at AAIC this year in particular found that quitting smoking at some point in your life produced the same amount of risk reduction as never having smoked at all.
That's wonderful.
So if you are of the age that you're currently a smoker, but you want to lower your risk, that is something you can do today with a lot of work, admittedly, but that is something you can do to lower your risk, is to quit smoking.
Totally worth it.
And kind of related to that, we know, and we have been at the association sharing through our community education programs for a very long time, that what's good for the heart is good for the brain. What's good for your blood and biochemistry, that is the blood that is going and feeding your brain. So by maintaining good cardiovascular exercise, reducing your risks of stroke, high blood pressure, diabetes, by reducing your risk and living a generally healthy, exercised lifestyle, you can lower your risk factors as well, because that blood flow to the brain keeps active throughout your life.
Now, one thing that comes to mind is like something as simple as walking or something like that. You're not killing it. You're not pumping thousands of pounds or anything like that. But I've even heard that moderate exercise sometimes is better than going extreme. Any take on that?
I don't have specific detail on moderate versus extreme. I would say don't overexert yourself, kind of for the logic of if you have a bad experience, then you're going to exercise less. Whereas if you do it moderately or within your general abilities, you're more likely to get into the habit of
something
doing so.
That you can do, you will do. So do it, because doing it is always better than not doing it.
If you're not a runner, don't go and start and do a 5K this weekend. That's not going to solve the problem, because you're going to have a bad experience and you're not going to stretch correctly and you're not going to run.
But a nice 30-minute walk every day.
Exactly. That is a great habit to get into, and that gets the blood going. In general, I think kind of the subcomponent of that is anything that's good for your heart, kind of that messaging that's already out there, and living healthy. All of that pairs with brain health.
Good for your brain. What else have you got for us?
Let's see. So what we call hitting the books or continuing formal education. This is something that helps reduce cognitive decline through your cognitive reserve. We don't know exactly why, but individuals who continue on to secondary education and continue to are lifelong learners have a slightly reduced risk of Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia. There are beliefs and theories there that, by continuing to challenge your brain throughout your life through formal education and testing that comes along with that, you're building up your cognitive reserve, your brain's ability to fight off plaques or otherwise.
Keep learning.
And I think that kind of pairs well with our, continue to challenge your mind recommendation. I know, very frequently Sudokus come up in conversation.
Yes.
I work at the Alzheimer's Association. Let me tell you about Sudokus. Doing Sudokus on their own is not the cure for Alzheimer's disease.
Okay.
Doing Sudokus, the benefit that's connected there is continuing to challenge your brain.
Because it's different every time. Every puzzle is different.
Yes, and not even to just focus on Sudokus, but teach yourself Sudokus if you've never done it before. Teach yourself knitting if you've never done it before. Once you've done those things, go teach yourself some other thing and just be a lifelong learner that's continuing to challenge the flexibility of your brain.
Candy Crush is okay as well.
Candy Crush is good.
It's patterns.
As you learn it. Once you've learned Candy Crush, a year later, it's not doing much to help you because you're kind of falling into the habit of doing so. And sticking to the habit of doing so, that's not doing anything to
So throw in
reduce
some
risk.
Word with Friends.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Not a paid promotion.
No, but you can tell what my phone is loaded up with. Okay, this is good. This is all good.
It's and kind of in that same logic of just living a healthy lifestyle. We know that eating a balanced diet that's higher in vegetables and fruits reduces your risk. There's not a direct connection between fats or oils, but just to eat healthy, eat what would be generally
what we were always told to do.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's a lot of this is good advice overall. So it's an easy sell for the most part. But by doing it in a concerted effort, I think you can really make an impact on reducing your risk. Because once you start to look at this list, you think, well, everybody knows that you're supposed to do these things. But then how many of them do we actually do? For the example, the next one says that not getting enough sleep may result in memory loss over time. So, if you're of working age like myself, I don't get as many as the recommended hours of sleep just yet.
Right.
But that builds up over time. So you want to get into those healthy habits as early as possible and live a life of healthy habits. You can, make those changes as you go. Like I said, it's never too early or too late. But the longer that you're living a healthy life, the longer you will live a healthy life.
Okay, so don't put toxic substances into your body by smoking. Get plenty of rest. Eat well. And exercise.
Yeah, it's kind of the same things your doctor would tell you to do leaving a doctor's appointment.
All the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
and we are going to be back with Andrew DeFreitas from the Alzheimer's Association with more good tips and just good information after these words. You're listening to Our Community.